ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी नामिने। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषण्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे गुरुति वाचालमंगलं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। ओम तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. So I'd like to welcome all of you to our session where we are going to start with chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. So I hope you're all geared up and enthusiastic to embark on this journey. And I hope you all have the Bhagavad Gita ready with you for reference, either digitally or in paper form. So we discussed some introduction to the Bhagavad Gita earlier. And of course, the earlier week we celebrated Shri Krishna Janmashtami, where we discussed about the pastime of the Lord. Yeah. So Bhagavad Gita is amongst the crest jewel of Vedic literatures, where a philosophical work, a very comprehensive spiritual philosophical work, is summarizing the entire Vedic system across the Puranas, Upanishads, the Vedas, all of them in a very simple way within 700 shlokas. Now, before we start with chapter 1, verse 1, first I will read out the verse 1 of the chapter 1. The chapter 1, verse 1, the honor of speaking the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita goes to Mr. Dhritarashtra. Because this whole Bhagavad Gita is actually a conversation between Dhritarashtra and his secretary Sanjay, wherein Sanjay is narrating the Bhagavad Gita, narrating the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So it is a conversation within a conversation. So the outer conversation is Dhritarashtra speaking to Sanjay, and Sanjay explaining to Dhritarashtra what is happening. Now, just to give a little bit of explanation, this is not directly in the shloka. Yeah, I'll come to this explanation. But before that, I would like to recite the first verse, which is also very beautiful. Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Dhritarashtra Uvacha means Dhritarashtra said, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavah mamakaha pandavaschaiva kim akurvata Sanjaya. The simple translation is basically Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjay, please tell me, my children and the sons of Pandu, all of them assembled on the battlefield on the sacred Dharmakshetra of Kurukshetra, the sacred land of Kurukshetra. What did they do? A very interesting question. Of course, when you're assembled on a battlefield, why to ask such a question? Obviously, they're about to fight. Correct? It's like, sometimes, somebody phones you and asks you, hey, where are you? You say, oh, I'm in a restaurant. Oh, you're eating, huh? As if I'm there to wash pots, obviously. Yeah. So there is some reason why Dhritarashtra is asking this question, because the answer seems to be quite obvious, isn't it? But we will come to that in a bit. But before that, let us try to understand what is going on. Some understanding of this conversation between Dhritarashtra and Sanjay. Now, Dhritarashtra, obviously, even though in one sense Duryodhana is seen as the main negative character, the main villain in the whole Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra actually in one sense is no less. Why? Because Duryodhana was the Gunda and Dhritarashtra was the politician behind the Gunda. Yes. So one of them is actually violent and doing a lot of mischievous activities, but there is somebody's blessings on top of that person's head. Dhritarashtra always was envious of the Pandavas. He always wanted not the Pandavas to rule, but his own son Duryodhana. He was very attached. Putra Moha. He was so illusioned and overcome by his Moha for his son Duryodhana, and that he gave up all sense of propriety. He did not consider dharma or adharma. He was letting his son Duryodhana do and get away with whatever he wanted. Because deep inside, Dhritarashtra also wanted the Pandavas to die. And deep inside, he wanted his son Duryodhana to be the ruler of Hastinapur. So that was always his weakness. So this is what happens. Yeah, sometimes when one is too attached to something, whether it be, wealth, whether it be family, one loses all discrimination of what is right and what is wrong, and either himself does or allows under his supervision or blessings so many inappropriate and sometimes even grossly sinful activities without realizing that everything that is performed in this world is accounted for. Every smallest word, thought, action is recorded, and every action has a equal and opposite reaction. But sometimes when people are so blinded by their illusion, their attachment, they fail to realize that they are getting deeper and deeper entrenched into a ditch that eventually they themselves are going to get buried under. So that is the sad thing. Anyway, so it so happened that Dhritarashtra had a secretary by the name Sanjaya. Now this secretary, Sanjay, was a disciple of Vyasa, and Vyasadeva gave a special blessing to Sanjay, that by his blessings, Sanjay was able to actually see a live broadcast without TV, without cable, without a dish. He was directly able to see by the blessings of Vyasa the live occurrences of events from the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So the scene in the first verse is that of Dhritarashtra and Sanjay, who are seated back in Hastinapur. They are not on the Kurukshetra battlefield. They are seated in the palace where Dhritarashtra, who is desirous of knowing what is happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he requests Sanjay, Sanjay, please explain to me, after my children, Mamakaha and Pandavaha and Pandavas, he differentiates, he makes clearly a difference. He doesn't treat the Pandavas like his own children. Pandavas are the children of his brother, and after his brother Pandu passed away, when the Pandavas were very, very young, actually for all practical purposes, Dhritarashtra was like their father. Yeah, they were under his protection, but he always differentiated. That's why he clearly says, my children and the sons of Pandu, different. Actually, even the Pandavas are part of the Kuru dynasty. So in one sense, the Pandavas are also Kaurav, isn't it? They're in the same family. But always Pandavas are separately identified because there's always an attempt to alienate them from the family as well as the family inheritance of the kingdom. The family inheritance of the kingdom was supposed to come from Pandu to his sons when the sons grew up. But while the sons were still young, Dhritarashtra was asked to rule as a caretaker only. But caretakers become attached, right? After you start taking care for a long time, you start thinking, this is my property. So he was conspiring in all possible ways to eliminate the Pandavas because he wanted that he will continue to rule and eventually he will hand the kingdom not to the Pandavas, but to his own son Duryodhana. And this attachment was the cause of so much mess that it brought about so much bloodshed on this battlefield. So Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjay this particular question. Like we said, right? Why would you ask a person, what did you do after you went to a restaurant? Yes, obviously you did not dance. You would have, nor did you wash the pots. Obviously you have gone then or ordered something and eat. So he's asking this because Dhritarashtra is a bit concerned that this place, this battlefield of Kurukshetra is not just an ordinary battlefield. It is Dharmakshetra. Kurukshetra is actually a place of pilgrimage. It is the Tirthasthal. Even now, people go to Kurukshetra and visit that place as a place of pilgrimage. So he was concerned, this place is not just a battlefield, it is such a holy place. Perhaps this place may have a effect on my children in a positive way, so that rather than fighting, they may have a change of heart. So he was a bit doubtful about what is going to happen. So he was asking Sanjay, hey, I just want to be sure the fight is going to go on, right? There is no settlement, right? Because I want that the Pandavas be eliminated and my son Duryodhana become the king. So sensing this kind of possibility, Dhritarashtra is asking question to Sanjay. O Sanjay, after assembling in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? Then, after he asked this question, Sanjay starts narrating what he's seeing live. He says, Sanjay is saying to Dhritarashtra, Drishtva tu Pandavanīkam vyudam Duryodhanastada acharyam upasangamya raja vachanam abravīt. So he's describing what happened. He knows Dhritarashtra is worried and he wants to comfort Dhritarashtra by making him understand, no, nothing like this is happening. In fact, your sons are so evil, even a holy place cannot influence them. So to convince Dhritarashtra that yes, it is still headed for war, do not worry, he says, O king, after looking over the army gathered by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher. Who is his teacher? Dronacharya. And began to speak the following words. Interestingly, Sanjay refers to Duryodhan as king because he knows actually Duryodhan is not the king. But obviously he was aspiring to eventually be the king after Dhritarashtra. And even though he was the leader in one sense of all the armies, Duryodhan in this situation, he had to go to Dronacharya, because after Duryodhan saw the entire army of the Pandavas arranged in front of him, by seeing their enthusiasm and their resolve to fight, actually Duryodhan was a bit agitated and disturbed. Of course, Dhritarashtra was foolish. Duryodhan was also foolish because he did not understand that even though numerically the Kaurava forces were much more powerful than the forces of the Pandavas, in a ratio of 11-7, 11 Akshavinis of Sena the Kauravas had, whereas the Pandavas had only 7 Akshavinis of Sena. But even then, the Pandavas and their army were so confident. Why? Because on the side of the Pandavas was Dharma, and the ultimate personification of Dharma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna himself. So seeing their confidence, knowing internally well that they are on the side of Dharma, Duryodhan was also sensing the seriousness of the situation, and he knew that this is not going to be an easy battle. So, being a very astute politician, Duryodhan approaches Dronacharya and starts speaking to him about how the Pandavas have arranged their own army. And then Duryodhan starts speaking to Dronacharya. So please keep in mind that the army of the Kauravas, the general appointed was Bhishma. Bhishma was the leader. Of course, there were so many other warriors, and which will be described soon. But Bhishma was the senior most and was given the charge of the position of commander-in-chief. So Duryodhan goes to Dronacharya and starts speaking. Pasyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudham Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. Oh my teacher, Dronacharya ji, please see this huge, great army of the sons of Pandu. And this army has been very expertly arranged. What does arranged mean? Armies, when they fight, when they are facing each other, they are not just whimsically standing in any position. There is a particular phalanx, a particular vyuha that the army forms so that it can attack the enemy appropriately. So many kinds of vyuha are described in the Mahabharata. So when one army would come up with one vyuha to counter that vyuha, the other army would come up with another kind of vyuha. So on the 18 days, there were different vyuhas. The most popular of all the vyuhas is Chakravyu, which was employed on a particular day when Abhimanyu was killed. But there are many other vyuhas, and every day the armies would be arranged in different military phalanxes. And even on the first day, the army of the Pandavas was so expertly arranged. And who was the one who had made that arrangement? It was Dhrishtadyumna. And who's this Dhrishtadyumna? This Dhrishtadyumna is the son of Drupada. He is the brother of Draupadi. And as this verse mentions, he is the very intelligent disciple of Dronacharya. Now here actually, Duryodhan is actually gently pinching Dronacharya. Now there's a story behind the story. I will not go into too much detail. But the essential story behind the story is that Dronacharya and Drupada, even though originally friends at a very young age, when they were students, eventually because of certain disrespecting that Drupada did to Dronacharya, they all both became bitter and against each other. And to cut a long story short, that enmity because of the insult that Dronacharya gave to Drupada by defeating him, it became so bitter that Drupada actually performed a yajna to avenge his insult. And from that yajna fire came Draupadi. And from that yajna fire also came Dhrishtadyumna. And Dhrishtadyumna was specifically born to kill Dronacharya. And this everybody knew. This was not a secret. Because that was the yajna fal. That was why the yajna was performed. He was born to kill Dronacharya. But do you know something very interesting? The same Dhrishtadyumna, when he was a young boy, he was sent through Dronacharya to learn the military arts. Now Dronacharya knew that Dhrishtadyumna has been born to kill him. But being a broad, liberal-minded Brahman, he could not refuse even the predicted cause of his death to be denied training. So that is how Brahmanas were very liberal. He said, okay, it doesn't matter. I will still impart to him education because in all other ways he is qualified. So that proves the liberal-mindedness of Dronacharya. But obviously, Duryodhana was not very happy. So he's pinching Dronacharya, saying, see, you taught him, and see now, he has created this military phalanx so expertly to counter us. You made a mistake. You shouldn't have done this. So that is how Duryodhana is pinching him, but with very gentle words, without directly offending Dronacharya. And then he wants to make sure by saying like this that, oh, Dronacharya, please don't be lenient now. Now is the time of actual fight. And he's been predicted to kill you. So please do not be lenient. Please fight with all your forces. Then he continues to say, he starts describing the army on the side of the Pandavas, and then he starts describing later the great warriors on the side of the Kauravas. This is again Duryodhana describing the armies on both sides to Dronacharya. So he starts by describing the Pandava army. Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhimarjuna Samayudhi Yuyudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha. So many great warriors are there in the army of the Pandavas. Who are they? They are very, very powerful, heroic Dhanurdhars, bowmen, who are as powerful as Bhima and Arjun. Bhima and Arjun are quoted because Bhima and Arjun were amongst the most powerful warriors on the side of the Pandavas. But he's saying not just Bhima and Arjun, but like Bhima and Arjun, there are many other powerful warriors whom we have to contend with. And we have to defeat if we want to become victorious. Who are they? Yuyudhan, Virata, and Drupada. They were also great, powerful warriors. Drupada we just mentioned. Drupada is the father of Draupadi and the father of Dhrishtadyumna. Virata, in case you do not know, Virat was another king. And if you have read the Mahabharata, it was the kingdom of Virata in which the Pandavas lived incognito for a year. And it was the daughter of Virat, Uttara, that Abhimanyu eventually married. So he is describing all these very powerful warriors. He continues to describe more warriors. Drishtaketus Chekitanaha, Kashi Rajascha Vidyavan, Purujit, Kunti Bhojascha, Saibyascha, Narapungavaha. Great heroic fighters, very powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitan, Kashiraj, Purujit, Kunti Bhoja, Shaibya. Now, each of these kings have their own history, and there are a lot of stories around each of them in the Mahabharata. So, we are not going to go into that detail. Otherwise, we will get into a long conversation on this topic itself. But they are very powerful. Kashiraj is Bhurishrava's, very powerful, very elderly person, but very, very powerful. Shaibya, also very powerful. Yudhamanyas Vikranta, Uttamaujas, Viryavan, Saubhadros, Draupadeyas, Sarva, Eva, Maharatha. All of these are Maharathis. It is Yudhamanyu, Uttamauja, the son of Subhadra. Who's the son of Subhadra? It is Abhimanyu. So he's referring to Abhimanyu. Saubhadro. Saubhadro means the son of Subhadra. Draupadeyas, the sons of Draupadi. Draupadi had how many sons? 5. She had one son from each of the Pandavas. Of course, we know eventually, very sadly, all 5 of them were murdered in their sleep by Ashwathama. But they were also very great, powerful warriors who were participating. And Duryodhan is describing them as such. And then, after having described these foremost warriors on the side of the Pandavas, Duryodhan then starts describing warriors in his own army. Asmakam tu vishishtaye tan niboda dvijottama nayaka mama sainyasya samgyartham tan bravimite. Oh, great Brahman, oh Dronacharya ji, now let me tell you about the extraordinary warriors, these captains, the powerful, the Vishishta. Vishishta means the very special warriors who are especially qualified to lead my army, Mama Sainya. So he's always so proud, my army. All of these people have come to ensure victory for me. Who are they? Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samitim Jayaha Ashwathama Vikarnascha Saumadattas Tathaivacha. So first, it are persons like you, Dronacharya ji. You are there on our side. You are so powerful. And then Bhishma and Karna. Beyond them, there is Kripacharya, there is Ashwathama, Vikarna, Bhurishravas. All of these are always victorious in battle. They are also so powerful. They have practically never been defeated. But he forgets to mention that actually at one time in the Virata Yuddha, Arjun, dressed as Brihannala, had actually defeated all these warriors together at one time, alone. So of course he is blowing the trumpet and he is speaking a lot of things, but there are some histories which were cause for Duryodhan and others to be worried about. So amongst these warriors, of course, Bhishma, Karna, you all know. Kripacharya. Kripacharya was one of the acharyas and military teachers. He actually married the twin sister of Dronacharya. So he was very closely connected with Dronacharya. And then the others are great powerful kings. Bhurishrava. Bhurishrava is a very interesting, beautiful story, but we will not go into that today. It's a very beautiful story in the battle of Kurukshetra. Very interesting. He came face to face with Arjun and it was almost that he was going to kill Arjun, but the Lord intervened and saved the situation. So Bhurishra was also very powerful, very aged though, very old, but very powerful. Duryodhan continues, Anye cha bahava shura madarthe tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. Duryodhan says, so many of them are there, and all of them have come here for me to give up their life. And they are all very expert, and they are very experienced in yuddha visharadaha, expert in military science. Actually, very interesting in this verse, the Acharyas explain that even though at an external level, Duryodhan is saying that all of them are willing to give up their life. Madartham tyakta jivitaha. They are willing to give up their life. Actually, indirectly, he is predicting that all of them are going to be tyakta jivita. All of them on his side are actually going to be wiped out and go to the abode of Yama. And then he says, to bolster courage for himself and to enthuse Dronacharya as well, aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tvam idam etesham balam bhima virakshitam. Our strength is unlimited. 11 Akshahinis is so huge, in front of which the strength of the Pandavas is actually limited. On our side, Bhishma is protecting our force. And on the other side, it is Bhima, who is the leader or the general of the Pandava army for now. And what is the comparison between Bhishma and Bhima? That is why our force and our power is immeasurable, according to Duryodhan's estimation. But a very beautiful understanding is there. The Sanskrit words which he uses can also have another meaning, that rather than having the meaning of unlimited, the meaning can also be drawn that actually our strength is limited and cannot overcome the force of the Pandavas. So again, like what I mentioned, the power, the numerical strength of the Kaurava army was 11 Akshahinis. One Akshahini has a particular number of foot soldiers, horses, elephants, chariots. There's a specific number. That number is mentioned in the Mahabharata. I do not know it by heart, but like that, and that's like a division. It's fully like a military division in today's time. Like that, he had 11. In fact, when the Battle of Mahabharata was announced, both the Pandava side and the Kaurava side started soliciting alliances with their friends, so that many other kings would also come together to support one of the two sides. So practically all the kings took one side or the other. It was a massive, massive carnage. You can practically say it was, the First World War, even though we say First World War was in 1918, wasn't it? I think, yeah. From a modern history perspective, this is when practically it was one of the biggest wars in the history of mankind. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avasthitaha bhishmam evabhirakshantu bhavanta sarva evahi. So Duryodhan concludes this section of describing the armies on both sides and mentioning the generals on both sides, and then saying that Bhima is not as powerful as Bhishma. Then he tells Duryodhan, now that Bhishma is our general and he is the main person who's going to fight, but actually you are also no less. So he wants to make sure that Dronacharya doesn't feel left out. He says, yes, Bhishma is so powerful and he is leading us, very true. But he has become old. He's so old. Because he has Ichha Mrityu, he has not passed away, but actually he's so old. So please, people like you must, and the other warriors must support him very strongly, because without your support, it is going to be very difficult. So please, you and all the others, give your full support to Grandfather Bhishma. You all maintain your strategic positions in your vyuha, in your military phalanx, and you support him. And if that happens, then we will be victorious. So actually Duryodhana is saying all these things bombastically, but actually deep inside, this whole conversation is happening because Duryodhana deep inside his own heart is fearful of the actual outcome. Actually, he's not confident, but he's trying to act confident, and he's going around speaking to Duryodhana because, to Dronacharya, because deep inside his heart, Duryodhana also knows that two of his most powerful, the number 1 and number 2 generals on his side, Bhishma and Drona, obviously they are the number 1 and number 2, undefeated. They are, even though they are fighting on the side of the Kauravas, in their heart, they are affectionate to the Pandavas. Actually, given the chance and the right situation, they would rather be on the side of the Pandavas than the Kauravas. So this is something which is eating into Duryodhana's heart, because he knows that maybe they will not put in their full effort, because neither Bhishma nor Drona was actually willing or desirous to kill any of the Pandavas. So this was also a great worry for Duryodhana, because Duryodhana knew that unless the Pandavas are killed, he will not win. And Bhishma will hesitate to kill the Pandavas. Drona will hesitate to kill the Pandavas. There was only one person whom we was hoping to kill the Pandavas. Who was that? Anybody?
Karna.
Yes, Karna. Because Karna had sworn that I am going to kill the Pandavas. In fact, he wanted to kill all of them. But then he promised Kunti, in one story, he promises Kunti that he will not kill all of them. He will just kill one. And at the end, she will still have 5 sons. So that was a very interesting conversation, because he always saw Arjuna as his main competitor. And he was very keen to actually kill Arjuna. So even though both of them were hesitant, Drona and Bhishma were hesitant, but at the same time he also knew that even though they are hesitant, they will not switch sides. Because even in the assembly of Hastinapur, when Draupadi was being disrobed, these two most eldest members of that assembly still kept quiet and did not go against Duryodhana. So Duryodhana was very confident. If they did not abandon me at that time, they will definitely not abandon me now. So in that sense, he was confident they will not switch sides, but he was still worried that perhaps they will not fight to their full capacity, because they had that particular affection. So he was relying on Karna. But there was one problem. That problem is not mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita directly. But that problem was, it is part of the Mahabharata story. That problem was, Karna and Bhishma also did not get along well. That was another headache for Duryodhana. And Karna had vowed that as long as Bhishma is in charge, he is not going to come in the front. Only after Bhishma is eliminated from the scene will Karna come and take charge of the battle. So Duryodhana had to deal with so many ego issues, even with respect to Karna. But he knew that Karna was his best bet against Arjuna. So after this particular point, after all this description, then another section, interesting section of the first chapter starts. It is said, Bhishma, who was in the battlefield, he noticed Duryodhana and Dronacharya are having this conversation, and he could also sense that Duryodhana, while he's trying to brag, actually in his heart, he's actually fearful. So Bhishma was thinking, let me encourage Duryodhana, because as a commander-in-chief, it is my duty to enthuse him and encourage him to fight. So let me encourage Duryodhana. So to encourage Duryodhana, Bhishma, seeing the situation, picked up his conch and started blowing his conch very loudly. Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vriddha pitamaha simhanadam vinadyochaihi shankham dadmau pratapavan. Bhishma, the great, valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of all these fighters, he blew his conch shell very loudly, like the sound of a lion. Simhanad, giving Duryodhana joy. So Bhishma was also trying to cheer him up. But actually, the conch is a sign of victory. Indirectly, he was hinting that actually the Pandavas are going to win. But anyway, he had decided that I am going to fight because I have sworn my allegiance to the throne of Hastinapur. I will fight. But he knew very well, deep in his heart, that actually the very fact that Krishna is on the other side means there is no way that the Kauravas are going to win. So after he blew the conch, now this is typically done when two armies get in front of each other when they are about to fight. Just as they are about to march and attack each other, different instruments are blown. In the Vedic culture, often conch was blown first, and after the conch is blown, then so many other instruments are blown. So that is essentially to create the mood of the fighting, to enthuse the forces through the loud noise and excite them and energize them. So as soon as Bhishma blew his conch, there were so many other instruments which were there, which started making a huge tumultuous sound. Tata shankascha bheryascha panavanaka gomukhaha sahasaivyabhyahanyanta sa shabdastumulo bhavat. Suddenly there were so many conch shells, bugles, trumpets, drums and horns all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. So as soon as Bhishma blew his conch, all these other instruments as well as conches by all the other warriors also started sounding. It was a huge tumultuous sound. So this was like the beginning of the war being announced. As this happened, now enters into the scene Krishna and Arjuna. Tataha shvetair hayair yukte mahati syandane sthitau madhavaha pandavaschaiva divyau shankhau pradhadmatuhu. On the other side, Krishna and Arjuna, who were stationed on a chariot driven by white horses, a very beautiful chariot. You can see next to me in the background, a very beautiful chariot driven by 4 beautiful horses. All these horses are very beautiful names. If anybody knows the names, they can let me know. These names are mentioned in the Mahabharata. Very beautiful names. These 4 horses. And Arjuna and Krishna also started sounding their conch shells. But their conch shells were not ordinary conch shells. Krishna and Arjun's conch, their shankha, is divya. It is spiritual. Divyau Shankau Pradadhamatuhu. They started blowing their divine conch shells. The sound of those conch shells was so loud and so heart-rending to the other side. By the blowing of the conch, the Lord actually practically declared victory for the Pandavas. Because whatever side Krishna is there and wherever Arjuna, the great devotee, is there definitely there is going to be victory. So the names of the 4 horses, Amit has correctly given by searching from Google Dev. So the answer is, the names are Shaibya, Sugriva, Megha Pushpa, and Balahaka. Yes, this is correct. This is the correct answer. So these were the 4 names: Shaibya, Sugriva, Megha Pushpa, and Balahaka. These were the 4 horses. So definitely the very fact that Krishna is there, because wherever Krishna is there, definitely Lakshmi Devi is there. Sometimes we see Lakshmi Devi, especially when the Lord is in the form of Narayan or Vishnu, Lakshmi Devi is at his feet and massaging his feet. But even when she is not visible otherwise, it is said that Lakshmi Devi is always residing on the heart of the Lord. Yes, in fact, on the heart of the Lord, there's a mark, there's a golden mark, which represents, sometimes it is compared to a white hair. The Shrivatsa mark, which is on the chest of the Lord, which is actually the residing place of Lakshmi. That's why in this verse, Krishna is also referred to as Madhava. What is the meaning of Madhav? Madhav means the husband of Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune. So the hint in this verse is, if Krishna is there, definitely Lakshmi is there. So if Krishna and Lakshmi are on one side, how can there be any ill fortune on that side? Definitely victory will be there. And the conch of Arjun and Krishna is actually indicating that victory will definitely be on the side of the Pandavas. Also, this chariot which Arjun is seated on was actually given by Agni Dev as a charity. That is another story. How Agni Dev gave, because in the Khandava forest, Agni was helped and he gave a beautiful chariot. And this chariot was extraordinary and divya. So what I'll do is I will take a pause here, because now we are entering into the section where the different conch shells are blown, and we will continue from the point that Krishna and Arjuna blow their conch shells, and then we will take it forward in the next class. Yeah. So I'll take a pause at this point. If there are any questions or any comments. Is it easy to follow the conversation, or is it too fast, too slow, boring? Is it okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, it's okay. I think we want to also I mean, we want to also continue continue the way we are saying, and I mean, we want to repeat what you're saying actually, so that we can also learn
the Sanskrit.
Yes.
Recite the shlokas.
Yes.
Yes, yes. You can actually, I mean, even as I am singing, you can sing. The thing is, if you all keep your mic on, it will be very chaotic. That is the problem. Yeah. I at least sense so. If you want, we can try that. I do not have a problem. Yeah. I don't know what the others also, you want to recite the verses. I have no problem. You can let me know. Yeah, Amit is saying that we all should recite, but we all keep the mics on mute. So you can actually sing along with me as I am singing, right? On your own side. Otherwise, the different speeds will make the whole thing very chaotic. I think.
Give little pause while each line, Guruji, so that we can recite.
Yeah. So the thing is, if I recite and then you are going to recite, if all of your mics are closed, then I will not know whether you have recited. So all that synchronization will be, of course, then I have to look at your lips, whoever is on the video, and see who is reciting. Then that person may be, ahead or late, But I think for now, let us try that when I am reciting, I'll try to recite slow. So you have the verses with you. So you just try to accompany me as I am saying. Yeah, I think let's try that out first.
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah. So of course, right now I recited quite fast. So it may be difficult. So I can recite, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamakaha Pandavas Chaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. So if I recite at this pace and if you are looking at the verse, I think you should be able to recite along.
Yes,
Prabhu. The verses of the Gita are actually definitely very sacred, so it's nice. You should try to by heart. They're all very spiritually potent as well. So, any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Antanam Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Here, when Duryodhana was saying that he was ready to, that his army men are ready to sacrifice their life, and Prabhuji, you mentioned like he already aware that the people he is going to be defeated.
No, he was not that he was aware, but that is the meaning that can be drawn out, which he indirectly hinted. Not that he wanted to hint at it like this. He says, Madartham tyakta jivitaha. So his intention of saying it was that they are willing to give up their life for me. But there is another meaning that can be drawn from the same words, is that they are going to give up their life for me. You see, this is the one of the behind the indirect meanings which can be inferred from the way he used his words. That is what we are saying. Obviously, he didn't mean to say that his warriors are going to die, even though, of course, in his own heart he may have had that fear.
I raised this point because recently during our Independence Day speech, Prime Minister was quoting like, our army men are ready to sacrifice their life for the country. So I don't know the English translation or Tamil translation, what I read in the paper. I got worried why he was saying like...
No, soldiers of the country are willing to lay their life for the country. Yeah, so obviously that is a perfect statement. But I don't think that has any connection with this, because here actually Duryodhana is saying they have come here willing to lay their life down for me, because many of them were kings from different places. This whole project was to install Duryodhana as king, and actually because of various reasons, probably other than Karna also came for his own reason. Everybody who was fighting on Duryodhana's side had all come for their own reasons actually. But Duryodhana is trying to pretend as if, they have come out of love for Duryodhana to support Duryodhana and fight for him. Did Bhishma really want to fight for Duryodhana? No. Did Drona really want to fight? No. Why was Karna there? Karna was there because he wanted to get rid of Arjun. So many others who were there in the battle had come for various reasons. So in politics, alliances are never about actual love. Alliances are always about some gain, something else. There is a common purpose to serve. So various parties were in it like that. So yes, so here Duryodhana is proud that they have come to give up they are willing to die for me. Madartham tyakta jivitaha. Mad artham, for me. But indirectly, the other meaning that can be drawn is, for me, they are going to end up tyakta jivitaha. They are going to die for me, which is actually a waste, isn't it? If one dies for the country, it is glorious. If one dies for dharma, so on the side of Pandavas, everybody was fighting for dharma. So that was glorious for them to give up their life. But on the side of the Kauravas, they were on the side of adharma. What is the glory in dying for Duryodhana? It is foolish. Yeah. So there isn't directly any connection between that, but obviously it is the duty of the soldiers that they are willing to give up their life for the country.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Welcome.
And one more thing, still during last time when we are learning also, we used to say like these things can be discussed later, but still we are some of the stories you are saying okay later sometime.
That's why you have to read Mahabharata. Mahabharata is very interesting. So I will recommend, because each of these stories, the history between Drona and Drupada, very interesting story. There are so many stories within the stories. When you understand all of that, you will understand some of these conversations very nicely. What was the dynamics between them? Yeah, how Drona, what was his connection with Drupada, then how he became enemy, then how he came in contact with the Hastinapur, yeah, how his association came about with Kripacharya, how his twin sister got married, right? So there are so many stories in the stories, and when you understand that, then you'll understand how it was such a complicated mesh. There are so many bandhan in that whole story, and how these bandhans pull each other and make people do and act in ways which sometimes are inappropriate. So that's why we want only one real bandhan, which is the bandhan of love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the perfect bandhan. All other bandhans will bind, but this bandhan will liberate us. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So whatever little stories I can mention in passing, I will continue to mention. But what I request you is, there are many abridged versions of the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is very sweet. Mahabharata is very sweet because not only is it interesting, but Mahabharata is not just dealing with ideal characters. Ramayana is dealing with ideal characters. Ramayana is talking about the perfect king, the perfect brother, the perfect son, the perfect wife, perfect brother, perfect villain also. So, and the perfect villain also is a perfect wife. So a lot of characters, very, very interesting characters. So Ramayana serves a different purpose. The Mahabharata is full of characters in grey, which is the reality that we see today. Because from Treta Yuga, we have come to the end of Dwapar, right? So a lot of grey has come. Grey means there are good people who also have bad aspects in their lives. And there are many bad people who also have some good aspects in their life. So nobody is painted fully black. Nobody is painted fully white. Even Dharmaraj in the Mahabharata is shown sometimes as making mistakes. Yes. And there are some episodes where Duryodhana also did some things which were good. Of course, he was overwhelmingly bad, but there were certain times where he also showed certain good traits. So that is how life is. So Mahabharata is actually very interesting. There are a lot of lessons, and we learn about the realities and complexities. That even good people have to go through so many challenges. It is not easy. Of course, ultimately they get the supreme destination, but the journey is not easy. So please read the Mahabharata. Very, very interesting. At least the abridged version. Then you'll be able to relish many things. Mahabharata is full of so many lessons. Full of beautiful lessons. Ramayana and Mahabharata are crest jewels of literatures. Very beautiful. Any other question, comment? Okay, so what I request is, for whatever verses we have covered, please read the verse translation and also the purports. Most of these first 15 verses have very brief purports, not a lot. Much of what the purport speaks I've already covered in what I spoke. But nonetheless, please make that habit so that you study it in parallel. And if you have questions on what we have discussed today, even if you want to ask that question the next time or any time later also, it's okay. Yeah, of course, better to ask either in that session or in the next session so that the connectivity is there. Please try to do that as far as possible. Okay, anybody else would like to say anything?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Upendra Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is regarding the recitation of shlokas.
Ah, yes.
Now, this Radha Gopinath Prabhu, he has recorded full Bhagavad Gita recited.
Yes.
So you can access from YouTube and you can post it on the group so that people can.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Prabhu. So what Upendra Prabhu is saying is, if you want to recite, of course, recitation together here is fine. But even otherwise, offline, if you want a reference to proper pronunciation of the Bhagavad Gita, where you want to learn and follow and by heart, because sometimes the pronunciation in Sanskrit is a bit, we may feel, oh, I'm not sure how to pronounce it right. So he has recited the whole Bhagavad Gita very nicely. So there are a few recitations like this. Radha Gopinath Prabhu has done one. So maybe, we will see and try to find that link, and then we can post it on the group. Then you can, in your spare time also do that. There are also some apps of Bhagavad Gita where the verses are recited. You can go verse by verse, individual verse, and play it. So that is also another option that you can do. Then you can select a specific verse and play. I think Radha Gopinath Prabhu's recitation, I think it's a continuous recitation across the chapters, chapter after chapter like that. It's also very beautiful, very sweet. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, anything else? Okay, so like to thank all of you very much. And I will see you on Saturday, Bhagavatam. Okay, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. By the way,
Thank you.
Thank you. So next week, Radhashtami is on Wednesday, isn't it?
Yes, Prabhu, I think, yeah.
Yes, Wednesday next week is Radhashtami. So just giving you advance notice. Yeah, so so that is the appearance day of Srimati Radharani, also very special. It's usually fasting till noon. So it's still another week away, but just letting you know so that you can prepare yourself. Okay, so last Wednesday was Janmashtami, next Wednesday is Radhashtami. We are exactly in the middle discussing Bhagavad Gita. Okay, thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.